Breeders' Cup win, and you're in action this Saturday at Churchill Downs. It's the Stephen Foster. JK, very curious to get your take on this Grade 1 race that will offer an automatic berth into the BCBC. Who did you come up with in here, and who do you think the main contenders are?
Yeah, look, I'm really excited about a horse by the name of Disarm. Disarm was a horse that was very, very, very talented as a 3-year-old, made a lot of noise, ran extremely well in the Travers. But as a horse that kind of went to the sidelines after that, got some time to grow up a little bit. I'm not comparing this horse to a stablemate, a similarly owned horse, but Gunrunner, right? Gunrunner was really good as a 3-year-old, but it's his 4-year-old years when he really turned into being the monster that he was. Frosted, another great example of a horse that was able to grow up. National Treasure, a horse that's on the scene this year that'd be looking for the Breeders' Cup Classic, who really was allowed to grow up. To me, Disarm is one of those horses. He came back in his last race and got a very low speed figure, but it was an absolute crawl at the early portions of that race. And if you've listened to any of our stuff before, you've probably heard me make my Usain Bolt analogy. And with the Olympics right around the corner, what better analogy than that? If Usain were to walk away from the gate for the first 10 meters and then sprint the best 90 meters of his life, he's never going to have that fast final time that represents how well he actually ran. I think the same thing can be said in horse racing. Disarm basically walked the first part of the race, sprinted home. The final number is not going to be that fast, but you look at those internal fractions for a horse who's coming in off of a 266-day break. I thought Disarm ran extremely well, and I'm extremely excited at the opportunity to bet him in the Stephen Foster.
Let's talk about a couple of the other favorites here, JK, while we're on the topic of this Breeders' Cup win and you're in race. First Mission, the 2-runner, installed as the 6-5 favorite. This horse was so impressive in the Ali Sheba, in the slop on Derby weekend, winning by 4. And you mentioned the weaker speed figure Disarm earned, and you explained why. Well, this was a really terrific effort, speed figure wise. Came up a 129 raw on the Timeform US figure scale. How serious of a contender is this horse? And do you take that figure with a little bit of a grain of salt from First Mission simply because it was earned in the slop?
I mean, look, you always want to take those things into consideration, but First Mission has shown me for over a couple of years now how serious of a racehorse he is. He's trained by Brad Cox, ridden by Florent Giroux, so there's no reason to have any issues with him as an individual. The biggest thing that I see as it pertains to First Mission is going to be his price, right? If we're talking about this from a fan standpoint, yeah, absolutely. He's one that you'd want to watch and one that could win this Stephen Foster and go on to make some noise in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But as far as this race is concerned, and this being a betting game, and we're all looking for horses we want to wager on, I just think there's some more interesting horses. I wouldn't want to get beat any multi-race wagers by First Mission. I think he's probably the most talented horse in the race, but I just think he's going to be a little bit too short of a price for me to get excited about from a betting standpoint.
How about number 9, Skippylongstocking? This is another one sure to be heavy in the betting. Last seen at Oaklawn Park, winning the Grade 2. Saffie Joseph Jr. doing very well, especially around Churchill right now. A contender or pretender for this horse?
I mean, he's definitely a contender, right? Skippylongstocking's been kind of showing up and dancing all the dances. The problem I have with him is he just seems to be kind of a cut below these Grade 1 types, right? He'll show up in some lower level graded stakes. He'll make some noise. He'll take some money in some of the Grade 1s, but he's just not out there winning a lot of these types of races. And with horses like First Mission and what I expect, the step forward I expect from Disarm, I just think he might be a little bit on the outside looking in. I wouldn't necessarily talk anyone off of Skippylongstocking. I just think that he's probably a cut below the top tier that you're going to see in this Grade 1 Stephen Foster.
We've talked about the top of the market. Is there anything in here at a bigger price, JK, you might be having on some of your multi-race tickets, or at least to sneak in to the lower rungs of a bet like the trifecta?
Well, not the largest price in the world, but the number 7, 6-1 King's Barnes is a horse I thought was a little bit interesting. Same idea with Disarm, right? He kind of was a talented 3-year-old who had some nice speed figures as a 3-year-old, but then kind of able to grow up as a 4-year-old. And the Ben Ali, I thought he ran well that day and got a nice number. Got a little bit of a pace to close into, but he was close enough that I won't knock him for that. And then he came back in the Pimlico Special, the race that's traditionally the night before the Preakness, going 1 mile and 3/16, the same distance as the Preakness, and ran well enough that day as well. I don't want to knock Kings Barnes. I think he's definitely one that could take another step forward. I find him to be a little bit more attractive from a betting proposition than First Mission and or Skippylongstocking. But I'm definitely going to go with Disarm as the 3-year-old turning 4 angle that I'm looking to take advantage of.
It's a good angle. And from a value point of view, some of the best opportunities are when you can find a reason you think the speed figure is low. You gave us your rationale for that one. Last question for you on the Stephen Foster, JK. What about like a betting strategy? Is this one you're interested more in attacking horizontally? Do you think Disarm will be enough value, 6-1 on the morning line, that you could get interested on the win end? How do you think you'll be playing it?
Yeah, I think this is a great example. I think Duke Matisse has talked about it. Professional horse player Duke Matisse has talked about it on these airwaves. A strategy that you can use for a horse like Disarm is you can bet him to win. You can bet exactas with the logical horses, Kings Barnes, Skippylongstocking, First Mission, and then have Disarm in second. And then you can do the same thing by playing trifectas with Disarm in third. It's kind of a way to tier those opinions by, it's kind of I like to call it kind of a sexier way to bet a horse to show, with a lot more upside, saying you need him to run well, run in the money. I think Disarm will do that. And I think the price will be right to take advantage of a strategy like this.
Love that strategy. Exacta as place, Mike Maloney calls it. And you're talking about trifecta as show. Same idea. It's a way of, it's a type of hedge, but it's so much smarter than your average hedge, because it does two things. It costs less than, say, making a big place or show bet to get a comparable amount, and it increases your upside. So really good betting strategy, not just for the Stephen Foster Breeders' Cup win in your in race, but for races down the line. JK, appreciate you coming on and talking all about the Stephen Foster. Folks who are interested in more coverage for Stephen Foster Day, we've got you covered. Full card audio show with Nick Tamaro. You're going to find that wherever you get your podcasts under the In the Money Players Podcast banner. And then if you're sticking around for playing Churchill on Sunday, JK is going to be around with an episode of Baby Talk, looking at some of those 2-year-old stakes. Definitely looking forward to that.